Welcome to Father Son Reviews. I'm the father.
I'm the son, and today we're watching the Terminator Dark Fate official trailer.
Yeah, which has got me disturbed because I think I know I hated the last one. How about you?
It was pretty crap, yeah. It
What was that, Genesis?
Yeah.
Genesis. Didn't even spell it right. Anyway, let's go look at this piece of crap. That's what I'm going to assume that it is. I'm already in a bad spot with this, but maybe try to be a little more fair.
2 days ago, I had this nice, simple life. And now it's a nightmare.
If travel is searching and home has been found, I'm not stopping.
Who are you?
My name is Sarah Connor. Never seen one like you before. Almost human.
I am human. Why do you care what happens to her?
Because I was her. How do we win?
We win by keeping you alive.
I'm going hunt.
I'm usually not a positive person when it comes to these kind of trailers or whatever. The only thing I'll say is that it actually visually, it looks great. The effects are top notch.
The new Terminators look cool. Like, the new types look awesome. I like the variation that they're bringing in. But seeing this trailer, it makes me skeptical, to say the least.
Yeah, to say the least.
It's just, first of all, they're bothering to make another Terminator movie, which doesn't surprise me. Honestly, I kind of saw it coming from a mile away. But when do they just let the series die? Eventually, they all have to go down. Either they go down or they attempt a reboot of some sort.
That's
and
one of
that
the,
fails too.
That's one of the big questions in human history. There's like, why are we here, and why do you keep running a great franchise into the ground? That's the two big questions we have. I just don't know if Sarah Connor is now like 70 years old and she's like just a boss out there just with machine guns, and I don't know.
Sorry, but I can't see my grandma coming out there with a semi-automatic shotgun and RPG and not getting flung across the field.
She's not a typical grandma, apparently.
Yeah, but
it's like, dude, it's like they did this in the last Halloween movie. That this redo of the sequel or whatever convoluted deal that was, where they brought back Jamie Lee Curtis and she's like 80 and falling off of a roof and somehow her hip stays intact. I didn't get that, but and it's kind of the same thing here. It's like, okay, sooner or later osteoporosis will take these old ladies down. It's not just the Terminators, folks. It's Father Time. It's undefeated. Apparently not in Hollywood. Now we got 75-year-old Arnold Schwarzenegger, however old he is. He's old as hell.
Well,
Still being the Terminator.
Now you're going a little too far, because a man drop kicked him not long ago and broke his leg. So he is still a well-built man, despite the age.
A drop kick is not a real move. It's a wrestling move. It really does nothing to the person you're drop kicking.
But still, he was barely phased, and he is still a very buff guy.
It's not meant to phase you.
I can still
If it was like a for real Taekwondo sidekick, it would have killed Arnold Schwarzenegger. But it was, a fake move. And apparently a guy who doesn't know how to do the fake move.
You can say whatever you want, but I could still see Arnold Schwarzenegger playing the Terminator, despite the age. Now, what I don't like is that they're still going on the thing that the Terminator can age, which I guess
the Genesis thing.
I can kind of understand and kind of not, because it's like he's partially machine, but he's partially human, right? So they're kind of bringing in this thing where it's like the human tissue ages around the machine. But you'd think that maybe the machine would have something built into it to make it to where he doesn't really age. That way it stays effective.
Well, his model number, or his model, specific Terminator model, it used actual real skin in which they grew and it's grafted onto him. So it makes sense he would age. It's not like the liquid metal guys, who, of course, would never age. Or the old plastic Terminators before that, or rubber, whatever they were made out of.
Yeah, but the other thing I didn't understand, which I'm imagining they're probably going to end up bringing back in this, is that if you remember that one scene from Genesis where they're loading up the cartridges, and then all of a sudden, like, his hand freezes up and stops working for a second, so he has to, like, hit it against the desk. It's like, is that supposed to be
barely,
part of... Yeah, is that supposed to be part of the aging thing, or is that just, like,
That's what they were alluding to, because he was just so old.
I don't know, it didn't make much sense to me, because, like, yeah, I get it, he's getting old eventually, naturally when a human gets old, they stop working properly and stuff like that, but this is a machine, and he hasn't been around that long enough for him to really break down quite that much.
Well,
at least I don't feel he does. And he
Genesis,
keeps up with himself well enough.
In Genesis, he goes back to, I guess, like, late 60s, 1970-ish, and then you're going through his lifespan all the way, until, whenever, like 2016. So he's basically a 70-year-old Terminator, and I don't know if they're really built. It's a combat chassis that he has underneath the skin, but it's like an old tank. An old tank is eventually going to throw a track. It's going to break down in some kind of way. And it doesn't seem like they're really going there. It's not a continuing story from Terminator Genesis, is what it looks like to me.
I don't know. It's just
looks
weird
like,
to me. And at the same time,
I'm guessing they're going to go like erase everything that happened after T2 and go, and this is like T3. That's what I'm guessing.
See, to me, it's like Arnold Schwarzenegger, I don't feel like should continue being put in these movies. I feel like we should get a new main Terminator if we're going to have one.
Well, the main villain Terminator in this doesn't even look scary. It's like he's like some coffee house dork.
Well, a lot of them, in my opinion,
it's like he should have had a man bun or something. That's how stupid he looks. Because look, like
I know,
Arnold Schwarzenegger in the first one.
Well,
the thing is, Arnold Schwarzenegger in the first one was scary as hell. T2, the dude who played the liquid metal Terminator T-1000, looked great. I mean, he Robert Patrick, that was his name, and Robert Patrick looked scary, like someone not to be screwed with. That was a freaky looking dude, and being the Terminator in that. And even the chick in T3, she was kind of intimidating. She had like kind of a mean look to her, and of course T4 took place in the future during after Judgment Day. And Genesis, that's when they really fell off. They kind of recasted everybody. Emilia Clarke didn't make a good Sarah Connor at all.
No.
And the dude that played Kyle Reese is like some big puffed up guy who is not a very good actor.
He doesn't know how to act at all, no.
Yeah, and the original guy who played him, what the hell is his name? Damn, I can't think of it. But he was fantastic. He was a fantastic actor back then, and just really Hollywood didn't use him enough. He was awesome. But I think his name's Bean. I keep wanting to say Sean Bean, but that's another guy.
No, it's definitely not Sean Bean.
No, but I think it's
He died, but it's still not Sean.
It's Bean, some kind of Bean name, like Michael Bean, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, he was great. He was great as Kyle Reese. That was one of his best parts, and it's hard to recreate that, and that's one of the reasons I didn't like it. I thought the cast sucked.
Yeah, I don't know.
And the story was convoluted, and John Connor being a Terminator was stupid.
Yeah, but we're talking about the new one. Not
I know, but it doesn't seem like it ties in with it, and now...
Which would be okay.
And Sarah Connor's, like I said, old as hell, and it's like...
I don't know. It's like...
At this point, I'd rather see a sequel to Terminator Salvation than this. I'd rather... Let's get into the future and see what that's about. Let's get dark and gritty and have this post-apocalyptic
I'm gonna be
tale.
honest, I really liked Salvation. I thought it was a pretty decent movie.
I did
and
too.
I at least thought it had, like, visually, I think it had the best effects out of all of them. Simply because it used a lot more practical effects than these newer ones, and the practical effects were done very well. So, like, all the Terminators looked really good.
The worst thing about Terminator Salvation to me was the crotch rocket Terminators. You know, like, why would the Terminators use motorcycles? But that didn't make much sense. But everything else was pretty cool. I liked it. It probably took place too much in the daytime, so it didn't look as post-apocalyptic as, you know, the visions of Kyle Reese in the first one. But I'd rather, because I'm tired of a Terminator comes back in time and you got to save somebody and the Terminator's trying to kill that person. It's like, dude, how many times are we going to rinse and repeat the same plot over and over and over again? It just gets dumb. I can understand it for the first one, of course, you do. But the second one, I can understand it kind of doing the same thing, but instead of like a human being shot back, it's the Arnold Schwarzenegger scary as hell Terminator is now the good guy. So it was kind of a flip, and that was really cool, and that's one of the reasons that movie was so popular. But it just gets old. It gets really old after a while, and I get, I really have little hope for this to be any good, just because I'm tired of seeing the same movie.
Honestly, when I saw the trailer for this, I'm pretty positive that it's not going to be good, and the two red flags I found in it was bring back whoever played Sarah Connor. What's her face? I can't remember her name. The person that plays Sarah Connor.
I'm drawing a blank too.
Yeah, bring back the original Sarah Connor for this, but she's old and all that. And bringing back Arnold Schwarzenegger. Bringing back both of them immediately tells me fan service, which is usually used as a major cop-out for movies that are bad. They put that stuff in there to draw in attention, to draw in money, and just so that way they can make extra cash off a movie that they know is going to suck. So those two things right there immediately tell me that this one is probably not going to be very good. It's probably just going to be repeating the same mistakes as the last one, and is going to suck. Now, I may be completely wrong, and perhaps they're bringing him back for good reasons, but I don't see that happening.
I'll be shocked if this is good. I'll be amazed if this is actually decent. Like, I can't see it being better than T3, and I can't imagine. I can't see it being worse than Terminator Genesis. That one was a big hunk of shit. Yeah. But
this one at least looks like it'll have decent acting.
It'll bore me because I've seen it all. I've seen it. You're not going to surprise me with anything. I don't need the fan service. I got the movies. So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I just have little hope for this thing.
Oh, yeah, with the mentioning of Salvation, I noticed how they're kind of copying the plot in the sense to where the main character is a Terminator, and they kind of reveal that over time.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. That's the main thing I didn't like about Terminator Salvation is this guy who didn't know he was a Terminator until he found out he was a Terminator. Kind of freaked him out, and there was really no reason. I mean, Skynet was like, well, we knew you would bring us John Connor, and it's like,
so yes, like you had this.
That didn't make any sense. Like, how did you know John Connor was even going to be a thing back when you executed the guy to begin with? It just, the whole thing. There's plot holes, and then there's plot abysses, and and that was a bad plot abyss, and it was they would have done better to kind of simplify that story, and it was disappointing. Well, we got to put a new Terminator in.
But still, I found Salvation to be more enjoyable and
Overall,
more entertaining than, you know, Genesis and all that. And it was overall a better movie, mainly because acting and effects. Because even Genesis, when that came out, I wasn't even impressed with the effects of the movie, honestly. I thought it was kind of lackluster.
Yeah.
And that's another thing I'm worried about this one, kind of. Cause
T3 was kind of lackluster, too.
Because some of the shots they showed in the trailer were pretty good, but then there were some that seemed a little lower detailed than they should have been.
In what?
Like where the truck busts through the wall and it's like all the like the hole.
Yeah.
The hole isn't like, you know, how you would expect it to be, where it's just a break in the wall.
Yeah.
Instead, it's like a cartoon almost, where you can see the bricks.
Yeah.
You can see the outline of
It's
the bricks.
definitely like
and
a
stuff
Minecraft break.
Yeah, it's super weird and off-putting because there's shots that look really good, like where the dude creates the two duplicates of himself.
Yeah.
And like how they look sort of plasticky in a way, which makes sense because, you know, it's an artificial material that just came out of him, so of course it's not going to look too realistic.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to make that lower detailed. But then you see that and it doesn't match up. It doesn't make any sense. Why is this one Looney Tunes and this one realistic? I don't understand.
Well, it's called not having enough of an effective budget to really, because you put so much into certain shots, you got to cheapen other shots so you have the money.
Which, you know,
the stuff ain't cheap doing that.
But if that's the case, then hopefully they'll be putting more work rather than into special effects, more work into story.
Ugh.
But that's a big.
I'm not seeing
maybe.
I'm not seeing any kind of story here, like that makes me excited to go see it. You know, at least with Genesis, I was like, well, you know, that's a little different. But I mean, it sucked, but at least it was different. It was something, you know, they tried to do like a Star Trek thing, like the new Star Trek deal, where it's like the timeline was going to be split and shifted, and there's going to be different crap, and you know, here comes, you know, Khan at a different time than he's supposed to, and all that because of the time shift and all that. Well, in this, it's like I'm not seeing a whole lot. I'm not seeing much different than what I've already seen, and like I said, it just looks like it's going to be a snooze fest for me. So, but we'll, you know, I'll check it out because I'm such a huge Terminator fan. I'll look at it, but I'm not expecting anything. I'm not expecting anything good. All right, well, that's all I got for this pile of crap. How about you?
That's it.
All right. Well, thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.